Hey, everybody. I wanted to talk to you about creating authenticated users and their permissions in Experience Cloud. If you have a public site and you don't need anybody to log in, then you're going to have a guest user. I have a video about that and how to set that up. If you would like to have your site where people log in to access information that is not available to guest users or people just landing on the page, then you're going to want to create authenticated users. First thing you do when you're creating authenticated users is you check your org-wide defaults. Go to what we call sharing setting. You want to look at your objects in one column. Your default internal access is the access you let people that use your site. You should be used to that if you've been in Salesforce. And then default external access is those that are not a part of your site. That means the guest users who land on your Experience Cloud page or someone you give access to. That is where you set your default access. If you're working in an org that has several Experience Cloud sites, you want to be very, very careful about changing this because any changes you make here in the default external access objects will affect every site. Best practice is to keep everything on private. That way you're not exposing too much information. And then we can use sharing sets to extend and open up if we want to show them, say, records they don't own. But the private sharing model, they will be able to see records they own. I'm in my builder. This is a very generic site I made for this video only. If you're not familiar with the builder or you've never created an Experience Cloud site, then I encourage you to go watch my playlist on creating one step by step. Otherwise, you should be familiar with the builder. In the builder, if I go to the cog on the left, I have already published this site, not just the publish button, which saves it, but I've activated it. Your site needs to be activated. I want to show you, I've already given guest users access. There's a lot of different implications on how to do this. So again, if your guest users aren't seeing what you want, go watch that video because it's more than just checking a box. I see that this is the name of my site right here. So I'm going to copy the link address and I'm going to go to an incognito window because I'm already logged in. It'll mess it up otherwise. So I'm going to show you what a guest user can see. I've only given them access to this home button and home page. Otherwise, they have to log in. If they click on something else, they're going to be prompted to log in. I wanted to show you that when we start and how that looked. You can see over here in my navigation menu that I have created other things that the guest user does not see. If I go to my navigation menu, I can either click on it and then edit it, or I can go to the cog on the left side. I can go to the navigation and then I can go here and click edit. This one called custom name, I have not made publicly available, and that is why they cannot see it. They have to log in. This one I'm going to delete because I don't need it. If I were to add others, such as on my portfolio, I have several tabs people click on. I need to make them publicly available if I want them to see that. But right now I've added this. This is a custom object. I've already created a custom object on the back end. I wanted to add it to the menu, so I clicked add menu item. I typed in whatever name I want. It could be anything. I went to Salesforce object, and then I went to the object type and found it. Initially, I was making a video and I got cut off, so I can't show you this again. Custom name wasn't showing up. If you've ever made an object and it doesn't show up, that's because you need to create a tab. You go to your setup menu, type in tab, and then you click on tabs. And then since it's a custom object, you can see I just created it, but I could hit new and create that. Once you the tab here, then you're able to see it. And that's how I was able to connect. I connected it to an object called custom name. It is not publicly available. I'm going to hit save. I've added it to my menu to show you that the guest user can't see it or the non-authenticated user cannot see it, but we're going to create a way for them to see. Go back to sharing settings and I'm going to look for that object I made. It was called custom name. Internally, it's set for public read write, which I have no internal user, so it doesn't matter, but externally it's set to private. It means they can only see if they own the record. And the only way they're going to own the record is if they create a record, which we're going to allow them to do. In order for them to see that object, I have to create an object page. In the builder, you go to your home menu on the top, you click the top button, and you can click new page. When you go to make a new page, there are different kinds of pages. CMS is content management, which we're not doing today. Object page is this object I made. That means it's going to create the ability for whoever's logged in to see their own information because it's going to pull their record ID from their user. Standard page would be some kind of generic page not connected to an object. I hit object pages. I typed in my object, which is already created, so it's not going to let me. And then I hit create. What it does is for each object page, it makes 3 pages. I'm going to show you. Custom name was the name of the object here. If I click on the caret, it opens up. It's got a detail page, a list page, and a related list. And we're going to use the list page because the navigation, when I have it going to a Salesforce object, will take them to the list page. From the list page, they can choose on something and go to the detail page. I want to show you my custom object here. Let's go to the object manager, and it's called custom name. I already created some fields, gave permission to what I wanted to see. And then under page layouts, it comes with just a generic one. And this page layout is what everybody inside my org sees, but it's got all these buttons and it's got created by and the owner and the last modified. I don't want the person in the portal to see that. Best practice is you make them their own page layout. I called it portal page layout and I pulled all the buttons except for edit off and I left what I wanted them to see there. I created that page layout. And the other thing I'm going to do is create a list view. I created a list view. If we look at this, I hit new. I need portal users list view. When I set it up, I made sure that I selected a group of users, all customer portal users. So they're going to be able to see that list view. And that's very important that you do that. So that is saved. This is called the portal users list view. And the only other list view is all or recently viewed. In Experience Cloud, if I go to my list page, which is where they're going to start. So my object, I named custom name. This is called a record list. You go over to your components, you do a search, and you can bring up your record list or related list or whatever you want. But I want a record list. That means it's going to list all the records. If I change it to full, this is what you're going to see. All these little settings adjust what they're going to see. I want to see 25 records at a time. You could change it to 5. Yes, they can list the page's object name if I want, or I can just go find it again. And I have 2 list views. I only want them to see portal users list view. The problem is if I preview this, I can toggle and choose all the list views. So if you have list views that are hidden, they might be able to see it. Pay attention to that. This little pin here, I have it enabled, but I'm going to undo that. I'm going to undo inline edit. As I go through these, I'm going to choose what I want them to see. What I don't want them to see are the list actions, which were all those buttons. I don't need them to see that. I don't need them to search, so I'm going to uncheck that. I don't need them to refresh, which is this. I don't want them to see these charts. And I don't want them to be able to filter the list. I'm going to do that. And then do I want them to be able to see a table and a Kanban or just whatever I want? So I'm going to pick table only. And that's how I set this up. The problem is they can still flip through the lists. Sometimes you don't want them to see it. What you can do is change your layout. I have full, I have compact. When I switch it to compact, I'm not going to be able to see it until I open it or I have records. I'm going to hit publish because that's going to save it just for now. And I'm going to go back to my list view, my portal view list view. It says my custom names, which is the name of the object. I only want them to see their records. That's good. And I want to share or show fields. I want them to see the description, the name, and the status. I'm going to hit save. And then I'm just going to create a few records just to have them in there. Okay, so I've got 2 records here. I go back to my experience builder, say got it. I'm going to switch my list real quick. I can see them both on here the way I created them. If the user were to click this, they could drill down and see that detail page. But again, I don't want them to see everything. See, when I changed it to compact, this is what it looked like to them. Is that all they get to see? They don't change their list view. Or if I go to standard, which is more of my favorite because it shows it as a traditional list view. As you see, they cannot get to other list views. I'm going to move that. If I were previewing it, I could hit view all. Can take me to the same list, or I can hit one of the records. When I click on the record, what that has done, if you look up here, before I was on custom name list page, now it took me to the detail page. I'm looking at this page. Do I really want them to see all this? I'm going to have to go do some work on the profile to fix all this. But for now, I'm going to go back to the builder. On this page, I have record information tab. I don't want them to see tabs because they don't need to see the related list. So instead of that, I'm just going to go to my components and type in record. And we're going to get the record detail. I don't want tabs, so let's put it there. I'm going to take this one, the record information tabs off. I'm going to delete it right there. I don't need it. This is a rich content editor. I must have put this one there at one point. I don't need it now. I'm going to pull the record banner up, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to use that yet. Right now, I'm viewing it as an admin. I'm going to hit publish, so it saves my changes. Publish equals save. And I was making a profile. To make a profile, it depends on your licenses. I'm going to go to profile in the setup menu. If I'm going to make a customer community plus user, I'm going to find that user profile. Now it's not a custom one, and I'm going to clone it and make my own. Earlier, I did this already. I'm going to go find the clone that I made. Let's see, is this all of them? Right here. Custom profile for testing. I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to go to object settings. And I already did this earlier, but the first thing I did is I'm finding that right there, that object. Initially, they didn't have access to that because it wasn't given to them, but I gave it to them. I came here, I hit edit, I changed the tab setting to on. I gave them read, create, and edit permission. Maybe I don't want them to delete. I gave them access to all the fields. However, I didn't have my own page layout. So now I need to change that page layout because I don't want them to see what the admin sees. I'm going over here and I'm going to take the portal page layout. It's very important that you do that. They have their own page layouts. So there we go. I'm going to save that. I've set up a page layout. I've created my page in the org. I've added it to the menu. I've given access to the new profile and the tab and all the fields that I wanted. When you made your Experience Cloud site, I showed you everything you need to do to be able to create a portfolio, but we did not enable users. I want to look at the page layout and we're missing buttons. I want to go to mobile and action buttons. There are buttons you need. I started to type enable to be able to create users. We're going to add enable. You got to add them all, whether they apply or not. There's also login as Experience Cloud user, login as portal user, and then there's disable customer partner user. The funny thing about this is if you don't add them all, they don't show. You can't add one. And let's see if I set that up right, but we're going to double check. Okay. So right here, I have it. Enable customer user. I'm going to click on that. And you notice it didn't show the other buttons. It only showed the ones that pertained. Now, the profile and the user license, we're going to use the customer community plus. That's because I have 5 in my dev org. The profile is the one I created for testing. So I'm setting that up. I'm making sure they're active. And because I don't need it to generate a password, I'm just going to stop that. And I've got everything. We're going to hit save. And it's like, okay, it's giving me this message that's going to send a welcome email. Account owner must be associated with a role. That is me. So what we're going to do, this happens to me occasionally. We're going to go back to our service. We're going to go back to John and see what's going on. And let's see the account owner, which should be me. Do I not have a role associated with me? I need to go check in my users and see if I have a role. So here we go. And see, I don't have a role here. This is very common. So I'm going to hit edit and I'm just going to pick, I'm the CEO. Save. Now we're going to go try that process again. I don't think it's going to let me refresh, but we'll see it did. I do need to update this information and get it set up right. Can't have the same nickname. You can't have the same username. And this is going to be the Community Plus user and my testing. I think everything, and I'm not going to generate password. I'm going to hit save. Now, what this is telling me is if I had already fully set this up, it will send out a welcome email, and I'll show you why it won't because of the way I set it up. We're going to hit OK. All right, so this one has a user. Now I'm on the user record. To easily find this contact again and log in as him, I do just go over here. Right side contact and click on John. And here we go. Now I see this log in as experience user. Well, I'm going to try, but my profile has not been approved. Look at this. It says, oh, no, they're not a member of it. I'm going to go back to my Experience Cloud site and I'm in the builder and I want to go to my admin settings. If you had a bunch of users to set up and you wanted to wait to let them use the site at once, this is how you do it. You could create all the users, you could get your site ready, but they have not been added. And then the moment you add that profile over here, so we'll go here. We're going to go to customers and I want the test. Where's you want test? Custom profile for testing. As soon as I add that, if I hit save, it's going to send a welcome email let's check emails real quick. I have this checked. Send welcome email. It's kind of all automated, but if I didn't want to send it, I would uncheck that. But right now, I'm going to add that profile, find that customer profile, add it. Now that means whoever has that profile is a member, and I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to hit save. So it's going to take just a minute for everything. Let's go back to our user, John Bond, refresh, and let's go see what John can see so far. So we're logging in as an experienced user. This is me seeing it how he sees it. Okay, I do see the tab that I made available to him, so that's good. Let's see if we can click on it and see if it takes us to the list. Now, what has happened is there's nothing in my list, okay? Because I'm not allowed to see it yet. And the custom name is going to a default. I need to change a few things. I'm going to log out by doing this. And unfortunately, because the way I have it set up, it logs me out. So we're also going to talk about how to fix that. I'm going to re-log in on another screen. I'm actually not logged in. It's going to start logging me out. So I'm going to go log in on another screen so you don't see my password and then I'll get back in. All right, here we go. From here, there's a setting that doesn't force you to log out. I'm going to go to session settings to prevent this from happening again. I'm going to scroll to the top and there's this one setting. Let's see, force re-login after log in as user. I'm going to disable that. I don't want it to make me re-log in every time. So I'm going to hit save. So then we won't have that problem anymore. But we're going to go back to all sites, which I already have set up. I use a Chrome extension called Why Salesforce. I'm going to go back to my builder and see what's going on. Okay, so I had to check a few things. John did not own a record, so nothing was showing up. So I created a record. Now what you see is he's at home and he logs in, he clicks on custom name. It takes him to that portal users list view, but it doesn't allow him to change. He only gets to see what he has access to. He can click on sample test 2, and then he can see here. And as you can see, now this is just a footer. Let's remove that because it's actually not even in the footer section. Let's refresh. He gets to see the description, the custom name, and the status. Because he owns it, we gave him edit access. So now he can change that. He can change the name of it. And what is a little different here? Let's go back to the custom name list view is I put all 3 things in the list view. But if I were to go back to this list view, the portal users, maybe I don't want the description in there, so we're going to remove that because it's just redundant. Maybe we just want the status and the created date, right? Well, let's even throw that record ID in there. Okay, now what John sees over here, go back to the list view, is he just sees it like this, and then he can click on here. Maybe he wants to see the description. Maybe he wants to change it. If I don't want him to do that, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to profiles. And this is the power of the profile, what you can do with it. Maybe I don't want him to change the status. So I'm going to go find that profile, customer testing right here. And we're going to go to the object, custom names, and I'm going to change his permission. Maybe I don't want him to change the status. We're going to remove that edit and we're going to leave it so he can see it. I could completely hide it, but I don't want to. Now that I've saved it, let us refresh this. Now he no longer can change that, but he could change this. You could give him whatever permissions you want. Okay, so I can go back home and go to this list view. And remember, you want to give them their own list view. You want to share their own list view and you want to make it available to them. And then from there, if you wanted them to see the detail page, because right now it's going to let them and there's a way around it, but that's a much more complicated video than I can see here. So I can hide, I can do whatever, just like I was in a regular profile doing this myself. That is how you configure. I showed you how you added the member. Once you create them, you've cloned the profile, and then you'll just continue doing that. If I want to now give him access to cases, because there's already a case page here, I could do that. I see that, and I could add it just the same way I did, add it to the menu. I could create a sample page, which I did right here. We're going to hit add menu item. And because this is not an object, I have to go to the site page called sample. Let's find that real quick. Not publicly available. I don't want anybody else to see it, so I'm going to hit save. I'm going to publish that, and then I'm going to take John and we're going to go back here and refresh the home. And now he can go to the sample page, which has nothing on it. The other thing is we can, if I go here, I did remove all the buttons. We could allow them to create a record here. If I go back to my custom detail page, let's find that. I want to add a component to allow them. Let's type in record. Create a record button. We could do that. Let's put that right here, kind of above it. Now, this is only showing the global actions, which I would have to go create a global action to create a new custom name. There are other ways you can do it. If I look at the profile, let's see, I've given them create access. That's good. I'm going to go look at the page layout. Maybe I don't have the right thing on the page layout. We want the portal. And let's go look and see. Do we have a new case, new community case, new project, new note, new opportunity? I don't want them to do that. Do I have in my buttons? So I'll just have to create a button and then I can add it and allow them to do that. And then in Experience Cloud, let us go back here. The record banner is pulling from the record ID. I don't really need that. That has to do with, we go over here, we compact layout. That's what they're seeing, if they're allowed to see those things. Okay, so that's whatever is on there. And there's a lot of other things you can do, but I just wanted to show you the basic. It gets more and more complicated. If for some reason I wanted to share my cases, or say we have 2 users, we would go to digital settings and we'd create a sharing rule. I go down here, or excuse me, sharing set, and we're going to say portal users. You can name it whatever you want. That's the name. Available profiles. So I want to find my test, customer profile testing, and then I want them to have the custom name access, but we're going to pick what kind of access. I need to set it up. I hit setup, and I'll say whenever the contact, let's see, the account on the contact equals the owner on the account or the owner on the contact or whatever values, then I give them this access. Generally, I don't need to do that, but that's how you create a sharing set. And once you put that in, it can open up access between users. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll be happy to answer. And good luck on creating new users.